Joey Greco joining us. We're in an interesting conversation, so we'll jump live.
Okay.
Joey Greco from Cheaters, man. Good morning.
How's it going, PJ?
Excellent. We were just talking about, I was saying I watched the show and I saw some other host, and you were explaining to me that was like when it went into syndication again, they used some of the stuff with the original host.
Original host did the first two and a half seasons before I started. When we went into second-run syndication, they packaged or recut the hour-long episodes into 30-minute versions. And at that point, they used shows from the first season on. So if you see someone else in the confrontations and handling the situations, those were some of the earliest shows that Cheaters had done.
I see. That's because I like you way better than that guy, so I'm glad. I saw them and I thought they replaced you with him, and I'm thinking, like, what were they thinking?
Well, I appreciate that. Everyone's got a different style.
Yeah, and your style is good for Cheaters, and that guy's was just whatever. I'm stuck on the Joey Greco Cheaters train here. I like it.
Well, I appreciate that.
How'd you get the gig? Is this like, were you an actor, that wanted to host?
Yeah, actor, and just was in Dallas, and one day my agent called and said, "You want to audition to host a television show?" And at that point, I didn't know very much about Cheaters. I mean, I knew that there was a show. Hadn't really watched it, and I said, "Well, sure. What actor doesn't want to hear that?"
Yeah.
So I said, "Yeah, let's go audition." Well, they offered me the job and booked it, and when they offered it, she said, "Well, what do you think?" And we sat down and talked about it, and at that point, we said, "Well, how long is this show really going to be on the air?" It's 2.5. Maybe we'll just finish out the season and see what happens. And that was almost 8 years ago now.
Wow.
So
I'm glad it's still on the air. It's just so riveting. Like, it's one of those shows that if you're flipping through the channels and you see it, you can't help but stop because it's going to get crazy at some point.
Someone was just telling me the same thing last night. I ran into someone. They go, "You just cannot. If they're flipping through and they see it, they can't. They have to watch. If you watch 3 minutes of it, you have to watch the rest of it."
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Are there some of those you go, when you're busting people, the confrontations and stuff, are there some that you go to that just aren't very exciting and end up not making it onto the show?
Like,
are there some you just go to and he's like, "Yeah, I was cheating and I'm sorry and thanks for stopping by," and then they leave?
I'm not going to say that hasn't happened. I don't know if they will or won't make the show because we're always in production. And that's one of the things. We don't have there are times around holidays we don't shoot as much. We'll, like around Christmas and Thanksgiving and, during the summer we may take, a couple of weeks off. But we're always in production because we never know what we're going to get.
How's that work? Do they just, somebody sends in, people can nominate them, I guess not nominate themselves, but submit the tapes or ideas to you, and so then somebody calls you and says, "Hey, we're headed to wherever"?
What'll happen is people will submit cases online, and then a department reviews the submissions, and they will interview the people, and when it looks like there's a case that's strong and is compelling, then they'll say, "We'll accept your case," and then they'll send the detectives out.
What do you think about the whole thing when you see? Yesterday we had a topic on the show. We were talking about sleeping with married people. Like, is it this guy sent an email saying this chick is married but she wants to, hook up with me? How do you feel about that personally? Like, are you really on the side of the people that are being cheated on, or do you sometimes think like you should maybe have done a little something more in your relationship here?
Well, to be fair, my first instinct is to say, that people deserve to be treated with respect. And if you're not happy in the situation that you might be in, have the guts to man up and say it.
Exactly.
Because where the problem comes is, and I've heard this a number of so much, when someone will say, if you want out, you say that, and then at least the other person will be able to still respect you and your word as a person.
Yeah.
Where does that go away? Where does that deteriorate? And I've said it before, is that infidelity is not the problem. It's a symptom of a different problem or a greater problem. So once you isolate what that is, then you can deal with it. And often, I don't want to say often, but there are times when once that is handled, you can work through any, so much more.
Oh yeah.
In the relationship that you go, okay, you know what? That certainly was an easier key and a better choice than than sleeping around.
Exactly.
But they're not always bad people. Good people can make bad decisions.
Yeah, usually for some reason you seem to find the worst of the worst and the craziest of the crazy.
Well, yeah, but that's, I think a lot of what you see is someone's embarrassment.
Yeah, that there's a film crew standing in their bedroom with them and a goat and 6 midgets in a stripper pole.
Yeah, and that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, obviously one of the biggest moments from Cheaters ever was that episode where you got stabbed. How's that been resolved? Are you totally better from that, totally healed up?
That was about 7 years ago, and I can't, as a condition of the settlement, I'm prohibited from discussing it in much detail.
So it was like a real, it wasn't just like on the show and like that guy, it was like a big full-blown court police kind of thing.
It was, yeah, it got involved, and there were attorneys and,
oh, wow.
and so forth, and there's so many. In essence, that person, even though he didn't own the boat, he had proprietary interest over it, and there were claims, and that of course it's on audio where he's like, well, you guys need to get off, and there were too many people in too small of a space, and it escalated more than it needed to, and you know what I mean. So those are all some of the variables that were part of the equation.
Crazy. I love the show, and everybody, if they haven't seen it, I don't know where they've been, and they need to check it out. But if they watch it, just a reminder, it's on, and it's still good. It's Cheaters with Joey Greco. Joey, thanks so much for joining us on the Big J Show, man. Have a good one.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks a lot.
The Big J Show. Weekday mornings from 6 till 10 on Billings' #1 hit music station, Hot 101.9.